The mystery around the Marcus Morris trade is growing. I mean, because when you think about Marcus Morris and what he's been through the last couple seasons, he's been through a lot of injuries or a few injuries. And then on top of that, he's went from the starting lineup back to the bench. And then there was games where he didn't even play. And it may have been due to injury and things like that. But it just always seemed to raise a question with me because, for the last couple seasons, they've been trying to get rid of Marcus Morris. They've been trying to trade him. I mean, honestly, he was going to possibly be part of a 3-team deal trade involving Malcolm Brogdon if they could have pried him away from the Celtics this offseason. But for some reason that didn't go through. And then, of course, his name was thrown into the hat of the James Harden potential trade as well. So, I mean, honestly, at this point, what do they want to do with Marcus Morris? What is their plan with him? Because, they've kept him way longer than I think he'd even like to be there because, he made some comments, I think, last year or the year prior on Twitter about, maybe playing with his brother on another team and, possibly, he liked a comment about him getting traded, which raised a few eyebrows and things like that, being traded from the Clippers. So it's like if there's a mutual interest for him to go, then add him in a deal and ship him on his way because Ty Lue is having issues, trying to ingratiate him in the offense still, ingratiate him in the starting lineup, but because he's going back and forth in his mind because obviously, with Robert Covington and things like that, players like that, I mean, you have to really, scale back on Marcus Morris because Robert Covington, when you think about him, even though he didn't get the playing time I feel like he should have, he can definitely take Marcus Morris' place with no problem because he can knock down a three at a 39% clip, for a season, close to 40%. He shot around 39% from the 3-point range before, which is one of his best seasons. But still, he can shoot around that. He can knock down, shots when needed. And his defense is more sound, I think, than Marcus Morris at this point in his career. Now, I'm not saying he's a better player than Marcus Morris because, maybe some people might think they're on the same level. But me personally, I think he serves the Clippers more value long term than Marcus Morris. So, with that being said, I don't see the reason why Robert Covington doesn't get more run anyway, especially when Marcus Morris been in and out of the lineup the last year or so, and with some of his injuries as well and things like that. It's almost as if they're keeping him around because he's a household name in the locker room, and a lot of guys respect him and look up to him. The younger guys, the veteran guys respect him because he's been there this whole 4 or 5, seasons that the Kawhi and PG era has been alive. So, his respect around the locker room goes a long way and all those things. But at the same time, if you're not producing at the level that the team think that you should, then it's time to part ways with somebody who's not living up to the billing. They paid him a 4 year, $60 million. And, that contract, to me, he hasn't really lived up to it because when you think about what he's not done, which is show up in the playoffs at times when they really could have used his offense, except maybe a game or two here and there, it really isn't good enough. Because, honestly, Reggie Jackson, when he was there, he was the third best player, I thought, on the Clippers, not Marcus Morris. Honestly, Reggie Jackson, the way he played in the playoffs a few years ago when they went on that run without Kawhi, and even when Kawhi was there, before he got hurt in the Utah series, they could have made the finals the way they were playing. And if Kawhi could have stayed healthy, they probably could have won it the way Reggie Jackson was playing that year, too, as their third guy. So, with that being said, Marcus Morris has really been kind of like maybe, I'm not going to say dead weight because he has been, he has played well in some regular season games. He's put in a lot of good games. He's logged in a lot of good minutes. I'm not saying he wasn't productive, during the season and stuff like that. But playoff runs that they had, I haven't seen the Marcus Morris I thought that they would be getting in regards to what they paid for. He was supposed to be the third best player on the team, but there was times in the playoffs and in many playoff games, I didn't see him show up the way I thought he should have. And, I think the Clippers thought the same thing, which is the reason why I think they've been trying to trade him. At some point it was secretly, now it's widely known, they've been trying to trade him and get rid of him. But if they really wanted to, they could have been did that, I think, because they could have made a deal with another team potentially and used him as bait to get what they need from another team in regards to maybe a point guard and or whatever big man piece they needed at the time back then with Mason Plumlee. So, I feel like the Clippers could have got rid of Marcus Morris. They just kind of held on to him just to see if he would pan out, because his potential as being somewhat of a two-way player, he still has, the potential of him playing to the level of the contract that they paid him for as a two-way player. It was still potential for him to do that, especially with Kawhi and PG being there, and with the assumption that both of them being healthy, he would just add on to what they needed as that third, substantial piece. But, over time, they see that has not happened. So I just think that, I'm not saying he need to cut bait with Marcus Morris or anything like that, cut his contract up or anything like that. But, the mystery around his trade has been weird to me, because his name has been surfacing way longer than anybody else's name on that team in trade talks. And the Clippers have not got rid of him yet. And like I said, he's liking tweets and stuff like that on X, Twitter, that, about him getting traded, and he liked the tweets and reports like that came out. Well, why not do something about it? Why not get rid of dead weight, to a degree, if he doesn't want to be there, and if he's not living up to potential and to his contract? Why not get rid of dead weight by now? Because they could have been part ways with Marcus Morris, and, maybe even some other players too. But like I said, they'll cut somebody, or they'll trade somebody like Reggie Jackson, who I thought really, shout out to him, he got a championship, but who I thought really was, like I said, the best player, for the third best player for the Clippers. And you keep somebody like Marcus Morris, who really isn't, maybe one of Ty Lue's favorites in regards to, what his skill set brings to the team now. So, I mean, when you look at it that way, what are the Clippers doing in that aspect? I would have kept Reggie Jackson, even though I'm glad he got a championship. I hate he got one with the Denver Nuggets because I can't stand them. But at the same time, I'm glad he got a championship, but I mean, he still should be with the Clippers, and Marcus Morris should have been left, honestly. So, I mean, I don't know what the Clippers are doing there, but if the Clippers are holding on to any type of dead weight, they need to figure out a way to ship it out, because you're not really going to get the production that you need out of that player. And when you think about Robert Covington, as good as he can play the position, he can guard position 1 through 5, and he can knock down threes at a pretty decent clip. Well, that's what Marcus Morris does, or at least that's what you paid him to do. I mean, that's the only thing he would be doing if he was the third best player on the team, in which he never lived up to that to me, because before Reggie Jackson got there, the bubble, he didn't play good, and maybe the year after that, he had moments, but in the playoffs, he just doesn't seem to live up to the hype of what they think, that of what they paid for. And if that's the case, let him go, or do what you got to do, or find a way to get rid of him, because like I said, you got somebody on the bench of Robert Covington who can do what he does plus a little bit more, and fits well with this team a lot more defensively, and stretch the floor just like Marcus Morris can. And like I said, he can guard position 1 through 5, and he's got less injuries also. So with that being said, make the move and make it happen. But hey, that's my take on everything. Leave any comments and we'll talk about it.